Now it's time to please welcome and offer a huge round of applause for the Melbourne Football Club President Kate Roffey as she comes to the stage.
I got my hands up shaking just to let you know that you've got...
Thank you, Clint, and welcome everyone. I think probably in your minds at least to the Night of Nights for the Melbourne Football Club, our end of season best and fairest. I think Clint has welcomed nearly everybody in the room, so I'm not going to reiterate those welcomes. Anyone who is in this room is very, very welcome at Melbourne Football Club function. Of course, it would be remiss of me not to welcome a particular group who do, I think, an enormous amount of work for this club as volunteers, and I'm sure most people actually don't realise how much work that is, but the Demon Army, who are always here. There are groups in this club who give an extraordinary amount, but the Demon Army, their biggest concern usually when they get in touch with me, and it's not very often, but it is how are we possibly going to make it from the men's VFL grand final to the women's game on time to put the banner up. They are that dedicated that they get everywhere. They're down there every week making banners for all of our teams, not just for our men's and women's AFL teams, but they're down there for our VFL team. And Demon Army, you're an absolute outstanding example of the culture of the Melbourne Football Club, and we thank you very much for that. We are, of course, here tonight to talk about the 2022 season, but before we do that, I just want to go back to this time last year when we were all gathered together in 2021, and the feeling that we had in that room as the reigning Premiership team. I want you just to think back to that night, not because we're living in the past, we've moved forward and we've got a long way to go further forward, but I want you to think back to that time and that feeling. And I think our captain, wonderful captain Max Gawn, summed up exactly how we all feel, and I think how we all should feel right now, and that is jealous. Jealous that it's not us now that are standing here as 2022 premiers. And I want to think about that jealous emotion, not disappointment, and not sitting there thinking that we should have, but we didn't, because as I said to Gus when we lost against Brisbane and we found ourselves out of the finals chase, and Gus said, we've let you down. And I said, Gus, we're disappointed for you, but we're not disappointed in you. And I think it's really important to all our players and our coaches that are here tonight to understand that we share a disappointment, and I can assure you, when you all come up to me after a game with disappointment on your face and spend a good 10 to 15 minutes, depending how many drinks you had at your function, telling me what went wrong out on the field, there's no one more disappointed than the players in the change rooms after a loss. So feel with them, feel for them, but don't be disappointed ever in them, because they put their hearts and souls on the line for this football club every day of the week. With that feeling in mind, I want to talk to you about something that there's a lot of things you do as president. Some of them are really fantastic things, some of them not so much fun at times, but one of the most extraordinary things I think I will ever do in my life was to sit with our players last night for a small, intimate dinner. And I think the extraordinary character of the men and women who play for our football team is demonstrated by the fact that our players came to an intimate dinner in the MCC committee room with their board members, and they came willingly, and not only did they come willingly, but they sat there and listened intently as we spoke to them. That shows extraordinary character, and I think the players that play for the Melbourne Football Club. The reason we were gathered together last night was to do something to recognise a contribution that our Premiership players have made for the Melbourne Football Club, and I'm talking about the history of the Melbourne Football Club in winning our first Premiership in 57 years in 2021. And we acknowledged that last night with a Premiership ring that every one of those players was given. The rings were designed by the players, And they were handed out last night as a very particular and specific memento for the contribution that every single one of you as Premiership players have made to the Melbourne Football Club. So they will, I'm sure, have those rings on tonight. Our coach, Simon Goodwin, also received a ring, and I'm sure they will wear them proudly. But we felt that was a really important recognition of a piece of history that you have all made for the Melbourne Football Club, and any Premiership player for the Melbourne Football Club going forward will receive a similar memento of the contribution that they have made to the club. Yes, I think it is worthy of a round of applause. The other thing that we were able to tell our players last night was that as a club we have, I think, been remiss for many years in not acknowledging the contribution that Premiership players make, and we have had many of them over the years, perhaps not in recent times, but certainly in the past we have. And as a board, during the course of last year, we made a decision to confer on any Premiership player, men or women, for the Melbourne Football Club, automatic life membership to the Melbourne Football Club when they finish as players. That is the highest recognition that we can give to a person who has given to the Melbourne Football Club, and we think it's only appropriate that every Premiership player will forever be recognised as a Melbourne Football Club life member. They will receive that life membership when they finish their playing careers, and all Premiership players from the past will also be recognised with life membership if they have not been recognised so far. As we move forward into 2023, another season where we have great expectations and we place great expectations on our players, I'd like to just acknowledge a few things that have happened in 2022, and very importantly to thank some people. Our head coach, Simon Goodwin. Simon, you and your group, and Goody will be the first one to say it is a group of people who coach our football teams, not an individual. But Goody, you certainly have led, and the way that the players respond to you as an individual is a testament to your great leadership. And we thank you, Simon, for all the work and dedication that you put in for the Melbourne Football Club. Of course, to all of our coaches and to Richo, Footy Ops, and to everybody else behind the scenes supporting our football program, thank you very much. To our fabulous staff, to Gary Purton, our executive, and our staff, things like this don't happen without those people who contribute an enormous amount of work over and above most certainly what they get paid for. So thank you to every single one of you who work for the Melbourne Football Club and contribute. I'd like to also just acknowledge a special person in the room tonight, and I think it's really important that we do acknowledge and thank in particular the fabulous Luke Jackson. I saw Jacko. Jacko's here tonight. Luke, anyone who's met him, Luke is a fabulous young man. He is a young man, and to be forced into a decision, I think, at such a young age, to have to choose between a club that we love, and I just saw Luke outside and he said, I love being here, I love my club. He loves his family too, and unfortunately his club and his family are on different sides of the country, and I understand, I know we do all understand, Luke, that a family pull is very, very strong when you're young, but we thank you, Luke, for your contribution to the football club, in particular your contribution to the Premiership last year. And as I said to Luke, he has my mobile number. You're always very welcome to call it, Luke, and you're always very welcome back at the Melbourne Football Club. Perhaps if things don't work out over in the West, we can find a spot back for you here. But we thank you very much for that. But tonight really is about acknowledging our 2022 season and some of the individual performances there. But as Coach Goodwin said last night when we were talking, we're not a club that is about individual performances. We're a club that I know any single one of our players would trade a best and fairest, would even trade a Brownlow medal for another Premiership Cup with their team. And that is the quality of the players that we have. That is the quality of the support staff that we have, and that is the culture of this club that we have. So let's look forward to 2023. The last thing I'll do is something that I don't think we do enough of, and we don't do very often, and that is thank our players and thank their families, because it's an extraordinary contribution that you make to the Melbourne Football Club. We constantly ask you to put aside so many things to do with the name on the back of your jumpers and to give your lives to play for the logo on the front. And that is a big ask. They don't get to do things like we do, just decide that we'll have a holiday whenever we like, just decide that we might like to have a day off training, just decide that because my back's a bit sore or my leg's a bit sore, I'll have a few days off. That doesn't work for them. So to you who get up every day, go out onto that field with injuries, go out onto that field when you're tired and play for the Melbourne Football Club, we thank you very much. All the people in this room, all 65,000 members of the football club, thank you very much. You're an extraordinary group of men. Those of us who have the opportunity to work closely with you get to see that day in and day out, and I'm sure there were many conversations. We were delighted to be able to experience some of the conversations that our men have as a group last night at dinner, and I know that they'll be coming back out next year and fighting tooth and nail to bring home another premiership to the Melbourne Football Club. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for supporting the Melbourne Football Club, and let's get out there next year and be louder than Collingwood, please, every time we play. Thank you.